The letter that changed everything. It had been 3 years since Lily's letter. 3 quiet years filled with half-finished mornings and slowly healing scars. I'd learned to enjoy silence again, the kind that didn't ache. I'd even started dating, though nothing ever stuck. Maybe part of me was still measuring everyone against a ghost. Then one rainy Thursday I got a call. "Mr. Ward?" A woman's voice asked. "This is Dr. Haynes from St. Luke's Hospital. Are you related to a Mrs. Lily Ward?" The world seemed to pause. I hadn't heard her name spoken aloud in months. "Yes," I managed, my voice brittle. "She's my ex-wife." The doctor hesitated. "I'm sorry to tell you she's been in an accident. She listed you as her emergency contact." For a second, everything inside me went still, like I'd fallen back into that morning 3 years ago, when she said we need to talk. When I arrived at the hospital, the smell of antiseptic hit me first. I found her in a quiet room, pale and still, hooked to machines that hummed softly. A nurse told me she'd been hit by a drunk driver crossing the street. She looked fragile. Not the Lily I remembered, but a faded sketch of her. Her hair was shorter, streaked with gray. Her face thinner. And when her eyes fluttered open, for a brief second she smiled. "Ethan," she whispered. Took me a moment to find words. "Hey, Lily. You came. I got the call." She nodded weakly, tears forming. "I didn't think you would." Silence filled the room. The kind that used to suffocate me, now strangely calm. "I didn't know who else to call," she said, voice trembling. "My parents moved away. Most of my friends drifted. I guess you were the only person who ever really saw me." I swallowed hard. "You shouldn't have walked alone at night." She gave a faint, tired smile. "Still giving me lectures, huh?" I almost smiled back. Almost. Over the next few days I visited her. Not out of obligation, something deeper, maybe closure. She couldn't move much, so we just talked. About small things. About everything. She told me she'd been working at a small art gallery. That she'd stopped drinking. That she went to therapy and finally understood what had driven her that night. "I was broken long before I broke us," she admitted one evening. Her voice soft against the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. "You gave me everything, Ethan. I just didn't know how to hold it without destroying it." I didn't respond. Some truths didn't need answers. Days turned into weeks. I brought her books, flowers, coffee she never finished. Sometimes we sat in silence, the past hovering like a third presence in the room. One morning she handed me an envelope. Her handwriting again, shaky, weaker than before. "I started writing this before the accident," she said. "It's for you. Not to reopen anything. Just to end it right this time." I took it, feeling the weight of 3 years in that thin paper. "I don't know if I can read it right now," I said quietly. She nodded. "Then read it when it doesn't hurt anymore." 2 weeks later she was gone. Peacefully, they said. At her small memorial there were maybe 6 people. I stood apart, watching her photo framed by white lilies. The irony didn't escape me. That night I finally opened her letter. "Ethan, if you're reading this, I hope you found peace somewhere between anger and forgiveness. I don't expect anything from you. Not love, not grief. Just to be remembered as the woman who made a terrible mistake, not the mistake itself. I've lived these past years trying to make sense of why I did what I did. I used to blame loneliness, but I know now it was fear. I was terrified of fading into the background of your life. You were so strong, so focused, and I mistook your steadiness for distance. That's not an excuse, just the truth of a broken heart trying to justify its own failure. If there's one thing I want you to know, it's this. You loved me right. I was the one who didn't know how to be loved without destroying it. Wherever life takes you, please don't carry me like a wound. Let me just be a lesson that love, even when it dies, leaves light behind. Lily." I folded the letter slowly, tears blurring the words. For a long time I just sat there, the house quiet except for the soft ticking of the clock. She was right. I had carried her like a wound. But now, it felt different. Less like pain, more like a faded scar that no longer defined me. That night I walked to the park again. The same one where I'd once seen that laughing couple. The air was cool, the world still. As I sat on the same bench, I whispered into the empty air, "Goodbye, Lily." The wind stirred gently like an answer. And for the first time since that morning she walked into the kitchen barefoot and trembling. I didn't feel broken. Just whole. Quietly, finally, whole. The woman who didn't ask about Lily. It had been 6 months since Lily's memorial. The world had settled into a kind of gentle rhythm again. Mornings filled with quiet music, evening walks through the park, weekends that didn't ache anymore. The grief was still there, but soft now, like a shadow instead of a storm. I wasn't looking for anyone. That's what people always say before life proves them wrong. It happened on a Saturday morning. I was at the local farmer's market, the kind with wooden stalls and the smell of fresh bread in the air. I stopped at a stand selling handmade pottery. Mugs, vases, imperfect and beautiful in their flaws. "That one's my favorite," a voice said beside me. Turned. She was standing there. Tall, dark curls pulled into a loose bun, a smudge of clay on her cheek. She pointed to a cup with a crooked handle. "It's the one everyone skips. But it feels right in your hand, doesn't it?" Picked it up. She was right. Fit perfectly. "I'm guessing you made it." "Yes." She nodded. "Guilty." "I'm Maya." "Ethan," I said, offering a small smile. She grinned back. "So, Ethan, are you more of a coffee guy or tea?" "Coffee," I said without hesitation. "Black." "Good answer." She pretended to wipe her hands on an invisible apron. "I approve." That was how it started. Not with fireworks. Not with longing. Just a crooked mug and an easy laugh. I came back the next week, telling myself it was for another mug. It wasn't. We talked again. Then again. A month later we were sharing breakfast after the market, talking about everything and nothing. Maya wasn't like Lily. She didn't fill silence with apologies or need constant reassurance. She had her own small studio, her own world, and she let me visit it without asking me to stay longer than I wanted. The first time she invited me over, I noticed the little things, the smell of earth and paint, the shelves stacked with imperfect cups, and the way sunlight spilled through her window, catching in the dust like gold. "You look like you're always thinking about something far away," she said one afternoon while shaping clay. "Maybe I am," I admitted. "About things that used to be." She didn't press. She didn't ask who or what. Just nodded and kept working. That silence, respectful, patient, did more for me than 1,000 comforting words ever could. We grew close slowly. I told her pieces of my story, carefully, like handing over fragile glass. I never said Lily's name, but Maya understood. One evening we sat by the lake, watching the water ripple under the sunset. "You ever feel like you lost years of your life to someone?" I asked quietly. Maya looked out over the water. "I don't think we lose years," she said after a while. "We just give them to people who didn't know how to keep them. But they're still ours. We lived them. They made us who we are." I didn't say anything. But I felt something shift inside me. Something that had been locked away finally open. She reached for my hand then. Not the way Lily used to, with desperation or apology. Just steady, warm, real. For the first time in a long time I didn't pull away. Weeks turned into months. Her laughter began to fill my house again. Different, deeper. There were no sticky notes, no grand gestures. Just quiet mornings, shared coffee, and two people who understood that love didn't need to be loud to be strong. One rainy night she stayed over. We sat on the couch, her head resting on my shoulder as thunder rolled outside. "You ever think about going back?" she asked softly. "To the past? To the man you were before?" Thought about it. About the version of me who believed love was unbreakable, who never questioned trust. The man Lily broke, and the one who'd risen from it. "No," I said finally. "I don't want to go back. I just want to keep becoming." She smiled against my shoulder. "Then you're exactly where you should be." That night, after she fell asleep beside me, I lay awake, listening to the rain. My hand brushed against the old letter from Lily that I still kept in my drawer, unread for months now. I took it out, stared at the faded handwriting, then folded it again and placed it in a small wooden box, the one Maya had made for me. Not as a goodbye, but as a quiet acceptance. Because I finally understood something. Love doesn't end when someone breaks you. It ends when you stop letting the break define you. As dawn broke through the window, Maya stirred beside me. She smiled sleepily, her hand finding mine without opening her eyes. And in that moment, that small, ordinary moment, I realized something profound. I didn't just survive Lily. I grew beyond her. And in doing so, I made space for something new. Something real, imperfect, but alive. Love had returned. Not the kind that burns bright and fast, but the kind that stays. Quietly, patiently, and without asking for proof. The past walks in just before the wedding. The morning sunlight spilled across the kitchen counter, warm and golden, catching the edge of the ring box sitting beside my coffee cup. I turned it over in my hand, still half in disbelief that this was real, that after everything I was standing here, engaged again. Maya had said yes 2 months ago, under a canopy of autumn leaves. She didn't cry, didn't gasp, just smiled that quiet, certain smile of hers and said, "I thought you'd never ask." Now our wedding was 3 weeks away. Small, intimate, just close friends and family. No big speeches, no elaborate decorations, just something honest, something real. But peace, I've learned, never walks alone for long. It's always followed by the sound of old footsteps. It happened one afternoon when I came home to find a white envelope tucked under the door. My name was written in a familiar looping handwriting I hadn't seen in over a year. Lily's mother. My chest tightened before I even opened it. Inside was a single folded note and a photo. A young girl, maybe 5 years old, with dark hair and eyes that looked unsettlingly familiar. The note read, "Ethan, I know this must be a shock. I debated for months whether to tell you. But before Lily passed, she made me promise that if anything ever happened to her, and if I ever found the courage, I would let you know. Her daughter, Emma, was born a year after your divorce. She never told anyone who the father was. But I think you have a right to know. Please don't be angry with her. She spent the last years of her life trying to become someone worthy of your forgiveness." Marianne. The world went still. My first instinct was denial, it couldn't be. But the photo, those eyes. My eyes. I sat there for what felt like hours, the note trembling in my hands. My mind replayed everything, the conference, the hotel, the timelines. She'd said it was one night. 2 nights after the event, I'd walked out. She must have found out later. And she never told me. When Maya came home that evening, she found me at the kitchen table. The photo and letter spread out like evidence of a crime. She froze. "Ethan. What is that?" I looked up, throat tight. "It's from Lily's mother." I slid the letter toward her. Apparently, Lily had a daughter. Maya read it slowly, her expression unreadable. "And you think she might be yours?" "I don't know," I said, voice shaking slightly. "But look." I pushed the photo toward her. "It's possible." She studied the picture, then looked back at me. "What do you want to do?" That question, "what do you want to do?" hung heavy. Not what should I do, not what will do, but I. She didn't try to influence me, didn't get defensive or jealous. Just waited. "I need to know," I said quietly. "Not because I want to rewrite the past, but because if she is mine, she deserves the truth." Maya nodded. "Then we find out." That week I reached out to Marianne. We met in a quiet cafe, the same one where Lily and I had once met for the last time. The irony wasn't lost on me. She arrived looking older, her once stern face softened by time and grief. "She's a sweet girl," she said, pulling out a small photo album. "Looks like Lily when she was her age. Draws a lot. Asks questions no 5-year-old should ask." I nodded, heart pounding. "Does she know about me?" Marianne shook her head. "Lily didn't tell her. She said she'd wait until Emma was old enough to understand." I stared at the pictures. Birthdays, drawings, moments frozen in time. And with each one, the resemblance grew harder to deny. Marianne reached into her bag and slid an envelope toward me. I had a DNA test done. I wasn't sure if I should, but I needed to know too. My hands trembled as I opened it. The words blurred at first, but the meaning hit hard and clear. Probability of paternity: 99.7%. Closed my eyes. For a moment, it felt like the air had been knocked out of me. "She's yours, Ethan," Marianne said softly. "Lily never told you because she didn't want to disrupt your life again. But she wanted you to know someday." That night I sat with Maya on the couch, the test result between us. "So," she said quietly, "you have a daughter." I nodded, staring at the paper. "Apparently." Maya leaned back, breathing slowly. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking I've missed 5 years of her life," I said, voice breaking. "That there's a little girl out there who doesn't even know I exist." Maya reached out and took my hand. "Then maybe it's time she did." I turned to her. "You're not angry?" She smiled faintly. "No. Surprised, sure. But not angry. This doesn't erase what we have, Ethan. It just adds a chapter neither of us expected." That night I couldn't sleep. I walked into my study and stared at the old wooden box, the one holding Lily's letter. I opened it again. "Please be happy. You deserve someone who won't confuse loneliness for love." I realized she had been trying, even in her silence, to protect what was left of me. And now, what was left of us? 2 days later I met Emma. She was shy at first, hiding behind Marianne's leg, clutching a stuffed rabbit. But when she finally looked up I saw it. Not just Lily, not just me, but something brand new. "Hi," I said softly, kneeling down. "I'm Ethan." She studied me for a moment, then asked, "Do you like to draw?" Smiled. "I used to. Maybe you can teach me again." Her face brightened. "Okay." And just like that, something inside me, something I didn't even know was missing, clicked back into place. Weeks later, Maya came with me to meet her. They sat together on the floor, coloring, Maya gently helping her mix paint while Emma giggled. I stood by the doorway watching them, the past, the present, and something that looked a lot like the future. Life hadn't turned out the way I'd imagined. Never does. But sometimes what's broken doesn't need to be replaced. It just needs to be rearranged into something new. As the sun dipped through the window, painting the room gold, Maya looked up at me, smiling. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah," I said softly, watching Emma laugh. "For the first time, I really think I am."